Hi, my name is Marty, and this is Sewing Nerd Confessions. Welcome to #Friday Sews. Today, I am going to be discussing a couple classes that I took at the Sewing and Quilt Expo in Lakeland, Florida, a couple weeks ago. So if you would like to hear all about that, stay tuned. All right, everyone, I just want to say a warm welcome to all of my new subscribers. My channel is a little different, I suppose. I don't do a lot of reviews of patterns, but what I do is encourage people to sew the most creatively that they can, and I kind of show you my process on how I get creative with my sewing and how I might change up a pattern here or there, or perhaps to do some patchwork or color blocking. I really want to highlight one of the classes I took. It was on Boro, and Boro is a Japanese mending technique. It was used by impoverished farmers in small villages where they could not afford fabrics or garments. So what they would do is they would actually have rag dealers where the rags would be purchased from people that perhaps their garments weren't good anymore, and then they would pass them down to their servants. And then once those garments were used up, they would sell them to a rag dealer, and the dealer would sell the rags in bundles. And quite often the villages would all come together, all the women in the villages would come together with their small coins, and they would put them together and they would buy a bundle, and then they would distribute the bundle according to how much you put in. And so they couldn't even afford a whole bundle of rags. Now these rags were in a way very beautiful because they showed the age, the patina, the wornness of the garment. They have a history to it, but they were actually very protective of this technique because it was quite shameful. So Boro means tattered, and basically that's what they did. They took their tattered clothes that has holes, and they would cover it up first on the inside, and quite often you couldn't even tell that it was mended. And then they would also do this with their bed coverings. So along the way here, I'm going to insert some photos of June Colburn demonstrating some of the garments and some of the pieces that she brought with her to illustrate during her lecture. One of the things that I loved about her, well, I loved a lot of things about her, but she actually let us touch the garments, touch the Boro. Like it meant a lot. Like that's what it's all about. It's not a museum piece that is not to be touched. And she's very interesting. I liked the way that she did her lecture. I was able to grasp onto everything that she was saying. And she did live in Japan for about 12 years, quite a few years ago. So some of the things she wasn't sure, if society had changed, but there was a gentleman that went around to the villages, and forgive me, I don't remember how long ago this was, but he documented all of these clothes, and he collected thousands of items and articles and documented their stories, which is very fascinating to me, to look at history through clothing. It's something that gets lost quite often because you don't typically see garments and clothing restored in museums. Now, you do occasionally, especially if it was somebody famous, but the everyday farmer, to be able to have these items was amazing. And she told us a story about how New York was gonna have this huge Boro collection, and it just so happened to coincide with the beginning of the pandemic, and so the collection was tagged, it was up, it was ready to go, ready to be seen, and then it was never seen. The collection did move to Sweden, and Sweden, they actually put a catalog out. So I guess you can purchase the catalog. I don't know where, but I am gonna put June Colburn's information down below. So she's a lovely lady, and if you were interested in pursuing the information a little bit more in depth, you could contact her, and I'm sure she would be happy to reply, because she is very much into educating people, and she was delightful. I did go to her booth, and she had a booth at the Expo, and I purchased, sorry, everything's dropping. I purchased some Japanese fabrics from her booth because I am very interested in Boro, and I'm sure if you've watched any of my videos on my upcycling, you will not be surprised as I show you some of the images from the Boro techniques. But right now I'm going to show you the fabrics that I purchased. This is a yarn dyed cotton Japanese fabric. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not a very big piece, but you'll find in Boro that you have sometimes very small little rectangles or squares or other shapes that are put on the clothing to protect it where it has ripped or frayed. So the first ones I'm showing you are all cotton, and I thought this was interesting. It had a figure going through the pattern along with a leaf. And so when I use these, I will preserve, you know, that one figure. I'm not going to cut it up. I want to be able to see that. And the other ones that I got are indigo dyed. So has anybody indigo dyed anything before? I have not. From what I understand, it is quite a process, and I'd like to try it. So the way it was described to me, like sourdough bread starter. So evidently you start it, but then you have to continually add to it, and you have to stir it. So I probably need to do that when I have a little time to focus and figure out and do a little research, but maybe when I have a few vacation days, that would be kind of fun. So we'll see. This is a beautiful indigo dyed. It feels like linen to me, but I'm not sure. I have not done a burn test on it. I did a burn test video. I'll link that down below in case you have some fabric and you're not sure what fiber it is. You can do a very simple burn test to figure out first if it's natural or synthetic. That's very easy to figure out. And if it is natural, the way that it burns and the ash that's left and the smell is what indicates what fiber it is. So here's another little indigo piece, some Japanese lettering. This one I thought was really beautiful. It had a very nice kind of crinkled diagonal stripe. You can see where it's very worn. These are all used, worn fabrics, and they're in small strips. So they're like what you would get from a rag dealer, only in modern day times. So, and this one I thought was really interesting. Have you guys heard of selvage denim? It's very narrow, and that selvage is red, and it's used on the inside seam. So, and it's very, very, very stiff. It's 100% cotton. But this has a little bit of red selvage on it, and it reminded me of selvage denim. This has a lovely little kind of square dot. I thought that was nice. I thought that could be really striking when using it here and there on Boro. Here's a few others that are kind of dotted as well. And like I said, these are all indigo dyed. Very interesting. I heard about Boro last year for the first time, and I thought I want to try that. And it kind of goes, in our modern world, it goes together with Sashiko, which is an ornate embroidery system that they do. It's very geometric a lot of times, and you will see that more in modern day artistic clothes, where they take the Boro method of mending and the Sashiko method of embroidery and put them together, and it's just very beautiful. So I will show you some examples over here of Sashiko, and that is also something that I'm very interested in because I really enjoy hand stitching, so I think that would be kind of fun. All right, one more little guy here. Here we go. Now, Sashiko is another class I took. It was Jill McCoy was the instructor's name, and I really do like the idea of Sashiko, so I'm really looking forward to kind of expanding my knowledge on that. From what I understand, it was like, okay, like if you watch Bridgerton and all the rich ladies were sitting around doing their little cross stitch and their little embroidery, that's what it was. It was kind of a leisurely activity. So it wasn't used in like the villages where the Boro was very popular, because the Boro was more of a need, you know, and as they mended their clothes, depending on where they lived, like if they lived in the mountains or if they lived where the rice fields were or the wheat fields or where there was straw, they would actually insulate their clothing and their kimonos with different materials depending on where they lived, and they would add that for warmth. Okay, one more piece of Boro. I love this piece. It's my favorite because look at the little holes in the wear it shows. Indigo dye is so beautiful to me. I absolutely love the color so much. It's just very, very beautiful. So let's see, I want to talk a little bit about Japanese design, and that was another class that I took from June. It was so fascinating because she lived there for a long time, and so I really enjoyed hearing about like some of the cultural aspects of the design. And she talked about the kimonos. She said that they don't typically, I don't know if it's changed, but they didn't typically wear wedding rings, which, being a jewelry designer, I find that really fascinating because like in the modern world, a wedding ring we could see somebody in a room and we could go, oh, she's married or he's married, and kind of know what their relationship status is. And she said that what they would do is a very young girl, before they're married, their kimonos have very long sleeves. She likened it to like, you know, a bird that just fluttered. I thought that was really interesting, but it was, you know, more showy. And she said that also the colors of the kimono would be very, very bright. And when you think about like a bird, a bright bird, the male bird that like, you know, look at me, look at me, I'm single, you know. And as they get a little older, when they get married, their kimono length of sleeve gets shorter. And as they age, that gets a little bit shorter. And then their colors of the kimono, they stay the same, but they lose intensity. So like every decade, You know, it's kind of a milestone, and their colors of their kimono will change depending on how old they are. So I found it very interesting because you could see somebody across the square or, you know, in public, and you can kind of have an idea of what their marital status is and how old they are just by what they're wearing. So clothes are kind of powerful in a way. And I've had people in my life where they've had to dress up for a job for the first time in their lives, and this is when I was younger, and they said, wow, everybody treats me with such respect now. Like, it's so weird that just putting on a suit makes a difference in how people treat me. And you know, I've always found that fascinating. I tend to like to be a little dressier, but as I've aged, I've actually kind of gotten more casual. But I think the reason, you know, when I would like to be a little dressier, I always tend to look at fabrics that are very fancy and just kind of more for like a holiday party. And I tend to buy those, and they don't necessarily fit into my lifestyle right now, but luckily I do work in retail, so especially around the holidays and certain times, I can get by with wearing something a little fancier. So I hope to get some of those fancy things sewn up this year. Wouldn't that be fun to follow along and see what crazy things I do with those? But I'm really interested, like I said, in the Boro and some hand sewing Sashiko elements on top of it. And so I'm going to incorporate that in some of my videos this year, coming up sometime probably in the fall. And I just think it would be really fun to share that with you, share my progress. Now that we have sewing out of the way, we're going to talk about what's coming up in my life. So this weekend, I am actually doing a little traveling. I am going up north Georgia to visit some really good friends of mine who live in kind of the mountains up there in a cabin, and I'm really looking forward to that. I just would love to sit by their creek outside and have the fire pit going. I think it's going to be really relaxing and really fun all at the same time. I am going to be going through Atlanta on my way up to see my friends. And about 6 months ago, I went on a little fabric trip with my sewing tribe. And I actually have some footage that I need to put together for a really fun video. And we stopped at some wonderful fabric stores, and I am going to be stopping at Fine Fabrics on the way home this next week. And they have a new location, and I guess it's huge, and the other one was huge to me. So you're going to be seeing some really fun fabric shopping videos coming up. I can't wait to share them with you because we had so much fun. And we went to, 6 months ago, we went to four. We went to 4 fabric stores, and oh my gosh, it was just wonderful, especially if you love fabric like I do. So I'm going to be sharing that with you really soon. This was made by Mari, and she makes these beautiful leather cases for your glasses, and I was the wonderful recipient. Oh, thank you so much. I love my case, and I have glasses, so it is just wonderful. And look at that nice little saying. Isn't that cute? Anyway, she owns the company Inspired Leather, and I will be linking her channel and her website down below so that if you're interested, you could have a glass case just like me. Another thing that I got, I hung out with the Sew Sisters and Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room and some other people, and I'm not sure who else, but I think these were all from Jen because She had fabrics that she didn't want anymore. She labeled them and measured them. That's awesome. But look at this beautiful sheet. It's so soft. It's so lovely and soft. I thought it would make a gorgeous blouse to wear to work. And this, I'm looking all the time for navy, something blue. I love that blue. It makes my eyes look blue. Look at that. And then I could make like a little cami that's lined with this, or a little blouse. I love that this one is gonna be like for pajamas, little romper or something, and a little top. I thought that was cute, although it does look, I like that, really summery. It reminds me of watermelon with the little seeds. Okay, and then there's two more. This one is a black, like a little black and white Georgette. So I really like wearing Georgette in the summertime here because inside where I work, there's air conditioning all the time. It gets really cold, but you could go outside and feel a little bit of the breeze and have a cami underneath of it, and it's really sheer and very comfortable to wear in the middle of the summer. So, of course, most of those are neutral, no surprise, but I did get one that is pink with some pretty purple and white flowers. That's kind of fun. So I'm gonna enjoy, I don't know what I'm gonna make with any of these, and I'm not sure when I'm gonna make anything, but I have choices, and that's what I love, is being able to shop my own fabric stash anytime that I need to, especially now that I've moved, because I used to be about 5 minutes from Joann's and about 10 minutes from Jay's Fabric Center, and about another 20 minutes to another Joann's, and about 40 minutes to another Joann's. I just had fabric stores all around me, and I don't have any around me at all. Like, I don't even know. Atlanta, maybe 3 hours away. Maybe Tallahassee has some. I'm not really sure, but I don't get down there very often. So I'm just happy I have my fabric stashes, and I could make lots of things. I could probably sew for like 2 years. Thank you all for coming along on my creative journey, and I hope you have a very creative week. You know what to do. Confess your seams down below.